Lacarney, Artistic Director of the Dortort Center for Creativity in the Arts at UCLA Hillel. We are excited to present Il Dolce Suono chi Koléch Arév, a special concert of Jewish secular music from the late medieval Italy. We are fortunate to welcome renowned musical artists Doron Schleifer, countertenor, and Corina Marti on Flutes and Clavisimbalum in their only West Coast appearance. But before our program begins, I want to thank our benefactor, Dr. Robert Edelstein, sitting right there, for generously underwriting this program, as well as our cultural partner, the Italian Cultural Institute of Los Angeles, and our co-sponsor, the UCLA Alan D. Levy Center for Jewish Studies. In addition, I'm extremely grateful to our incredible Hillel staff and my wonderful art intern, Shira, for their unwavering support. And now I'm honored to introduce Professor Mark Kligman, who will put this concert into historical context and introduce our artists. Dr. Mark Kligman is a professor of ethnomusicology in the UCLA Herb Elbert School of Music and an expert in the liturgical traditions of Middle Eastern Jewish communities. He's the Mickey Katz Chair of Jewish Music at the Herb Elbert School of Music at UCLA, a chaired position which was endowed by the Katz family in 2014. In 2017, Professor Kligman was appointed director of the Lowell Milken Fund for American Jewish Music. He's a co-editor of Musica Judaica and academic chair of the Jewish Music Forum. He received both his Master's of Arts and PhD from New York University. He has published 5 books, and the highest of which is in 150 libraries. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Mark Kligman.
Good afternoon. It is so wonderful to be here, and isn't it great that we get to enjoy live music again? It's just so great to have you all here, to see you, and to be here. Today is going to be a wonderful representation of a very unique form of Jewish music, and we'll get to go back many hundreds of years. When we think in Jewish music about Italian Jewish music that's old, does anyone have a particular composer that comes to mind when we mention that? Solomon Rossi, right. And this year marks a very important anniversary. He published his work of 33 different Jewish works in 1622. So we're at the 400-year mark. So there are a lot of different programs of Solomon Rossi. And what we're going to do with this concert is actually go back almost 300 years prior to that, because this concert represents music of the 14th century. When we often think of modernity, particularly in the Ashkenazic tradition, we usually go back to the 1800s as the time period that new things are happening and new things are beginning, where the secular world is really embraced by the Jewish community. What's very interesting is that Italy's history goes back even earlier than that. We can look at the 1600s with the music of Rossi as being that time period where the Jews were not fearful of the outside world, but embraced the outside world and brought it into the liturgical music and brought it into their religious life. And we can go back even further in the very unique music that we'll hear today of a number of different composers. Now, not all the composers we're going to hear today are actually Jewish composers. They would be composers that Jews enjoyed their music or were patrons of their music and created their music and helped to support their music or to create the music. And as you hear this music, you'll hear a couple of very interesting things. First off, some of it will be in Italian and some of it will be in Hebrew. We'll hear some interesting Hebrew songs, and the performers will tell us more about them as they go on. But what's unique about it is how we'll hear it. Our singer, Doron Schleifer, is a countertenor. Countertenor is a very high tenor. This is someone who's really worked very hard to develop a very high voice, and you'll just sit and hear just incredibly lovely music. And Corina Marti, as you'll see, the instrument that she has here is called a clavisimbalum. And it's sort of a form of a harpsichord. It's probably one that she can travel with. Unfortunately, I told her at the UCLA Early Music Center we have a bunch of harpsichords. Well, I'm sorry, we weren't able to bring her one. She's looking at me right now. But you'll hear not only her playing this really unique keyboard instrument, but also the wonderful flutes that she has. So we'll hear some really unique instruments, and we get to climb back into what Jewish life was like in Italy in the 14th century, in the 1300s. It's going to be wonderful. So our two performers are Doron Schleifer, who I'd first like to say that I have the pleasure of having worked with his father for many years. His father, Eliyahu Schleifer, is a noted Jewish musicologist. We were colleagues when I worked at Hebrew Union College, so it's great to see Doron again, and he comes from a very musical family, and as I said, he'll be our countertenor, and Corina Marti, who's also incredibly talented. They both work now in Switzerland, so we're so glad that we have them. So with no further ado, Doron Schleifer and Corina Marti. Let's welcome them.
Thank you so much. I hope I'm heard through this mic. Today's program will be revolving mainly around Florence. We'll be singing secular pieces from Florence by Florentine composers and Jewish piyutim from the synagogue of Florence. Some of them are still sung there today with the same melodies. And these piyutim that we chose are for the cycle of the Chagim throughout the year. We started with Achot Ketana, the little sister, which is sung by all Sephardi Jews in the beginning of the year. This is the first text that is sung on Rosh Hashanah. And it compares the new year to a little sister who we want her to grow up and develop. And it always ends each verse with Tichle Shana V'Kileloteha. Let this year ends with all its curses, let's say, and let the next year begin with all its blessings. The second piyut that I sang was Shochant Basadeh by Shlomo ibn Gavirol. It is sung in the Italian synagogue in Simchat Torah. And the tradition of Simchat Torah in the synagogue of Florence is to put in the Siddur piyutim which are not related in any way to the liturgy, but have a more erotic context. So this is a real love song. It has absolutely nothing to do with Simchat Torah directly. And we will also sing other piyutim of that sort as well. The next piyut that I will be singing, it will be not now, it will be after a while, will be Lemi Evke, which is sung also in the Sephardic synagogue, especially in the one on Florence, on Tisha B'Av. And because of that, I will not remove the furniture from this hall, but I will do it sitting on the chair and not on the floor, because you will not be seeing me. Corina, would you like to say something now or later?
Maybe I could say something. Can you hear me, or should I move this? It's okay? No. Okay. So you can, but the left.
Maybe you can step down and use the other mic on the floor.
So use this one.
Okay. So while my singer is demolishing the stage, I almost said good morning because it feels like this for me coming from Switzerland right now, but good afternoon or wherever we are. And I hope you can hear me and understand my English. As Doron already said, so it's going to be a while till he sings the next piyutim. So let me just talk a little bit about the while. We will now jump into the Florence of the late 14th century, early 15th century, where we not only have the beautiful synagogues and the music that we just heard, but as well people with names like Giovanni da Firenze, Gherardello da Firenze, Don Paolo da Firenze, Andrea da Firenze, all composers who all came from Florence or moved to Florence in the 14th century because it was the place to be for a composer and for keyboard players, like the early pianists, and to compose and to work together and to write extremely beautiful music that often has the same text. We don't have the little sister for a year, but we have the O Perlaro Gentil. Perlaro is a very special tree that you find in the Po Valley. I think that's the name, how you name this in Italy, in English. And this tree is a symbol for everybody that is in love and cannot find love, and then they go there and they, being Italians and crying like, why can't I find love, and why does Anna not love me? You will hear a lot of Anna, it's always Anna. And then we move on to a very, very famous composer back of the time. They were all famous, but he was the most famous, Francesco Landini, which we could call as well Francesco da Firenze. He was blind since he was 4 years old, and his father, when he was a kid, gave him a small little instrument, an organ, and he said, from now on, you don't see anything, but you can make music. So he did. And the piece Doron is going to sing and I'm going to accompany is Gran Pianta agli Occhi. That's again very sad, and it's always about love that doesn't work out and she doesn't love him back and so on. So very Italian, everything. Enjoy. Thank you.
Per la ruggente Oh
I forgot already, where's the microphone? We are going slowly to the end of our program. Maybe just a few words about the instruments and the voice of Doron, which is an instrument too. So the small flutes that I'm playing, we could just call them normal recorders, as you do in English, right? There is plenty of iconographical evidence for this kind of flutes, and we have a lot of descriptions when and where and how they were played. They're often for sad occasions, fun enough, the recorders, like, you know, when you, for a funeral or something like that. In the 14th century, for dance music, for any kind of other music, but it's always the instrument that's supposed to sound like a human voice. The keyboard instrument I'm using, you could call it a harpsichord, but it's not, right? We have two types of these kind of keyboard instruments starting the late 14th century. One is like as the modern harpsichord, and it has a plucked mechanic, but this one is a very special type, and with just a few treatises that describe it. It has like little hammers. It's basically a medieval Bösendorfer or Steinway, or as you like to put it, and it's an instrument that allows you to play with dynamics. And funny enough, when you listen to a Persian santur, there's a very similar sound, and Kanun has a possibility as well to do that, and extremely nice. In Italy, in the 14th century, they often call this instrument a micanone, half of a canon. I don't know how big is the 14th century canon, but apparently double the size of this. Then I would like to speak just a little bit about, we take the human voice for granted. It sounds, some people sing high, some people sing low. The term countertenor comes much later, I think 17th century.
Contratenor is already medieval.
No, but the term, no. Altus, you know, like this. Yes. But as my singer has a very high, beautiful voice, and we have treatises again that describe a very high male voice as well, we thought we'd kind of put it together. Would you like to say a few more things about the next pieces that you're going to sing? Urana and stuff? Yeah.
Just,
I die?
just shortly. The next pieces that we will be singing, the Hebrew ones, are Uranaya mincha rama veliz uma kera ruchama. This is a piyut, again, that doesn't appear in the Ashkenazi literature. It is Florentine again, and it's also sung on Tisha B'Av, the day for mourning over the destruction of Jerusalem. So this is again a mourning litany, and the last piyut that we will do at the end of the concert is Sha'ar Asher Nisgar. It's by Shlomo Ibn Gevirol as well, like the second one that I did, and it's also for Simchat Torah. And the reason those are still in the Siddur, even though I said before this is very erotic poetry and it does not have anything to do with the cycle of the year or the cycle of reading the Torah, it is because it still has a lot of quotations, direct quotations from the Song of Songs, and it uses them very, very freely to describe what Ibn Gabirol wants to express. In the meanwhile, we'll be singing Nel mio parlar, again, the same litany of how do you say, unobtained love. And I think, yes, that's basically all what we're singing. Yes.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to intrude. I asked Pearl if I could say a few words to give some context to what we just heard. So first of all, to understand the nature of there's a long-standing dispute about the nature of Jewish music that the rabbis had to, and they were engaged in a major argument about the legitimacy of music after the destruction of the temple. In fact, one of the piyutim, the Miafkeh, ends with a line that says, I'm going to cease all the music now, and only mourn for the destruction, Akonen. So that had to be overcome, number one. Number two, Why Italy? Italy was a place of great convergence, cultural convergence. And basically, the Jews lived in Italy in relative security. So they achieved great artistic heights in relationship to the culture in which they lived. And Jews contributed to that culture. Later on, the sister of the Rossi was named Madama Europa. And she was a dancer. She performed performed all over Europe. So that's number two. Number three, I personally, I think that we have to really set aside our modern distinctions between religious and secular. They're totally irrelevant. And in the medieval mind, and certainly the earlier mind, it was an expression of life, and religion and spirit and nature were intertwined. That's the great contribution if you want to see the influence of the Song of Songs. Because you have to ask yourself, what group of rabbis approved the Song of Songs to be admitted into the canon of the Bible? So there already you have that sort of interjection, and which opens up the culture. Few more short points. The author of the poem Achot Ketana was named Abraham Chazan of Girona. He lived in the 13th century, 12th, 13th century. In the circle of Nachmanides, he was a Kabbalist. And it's interesting that the poems that we heard were composed by Spaniards. Abraham of Girona, and then Ibn Virol was an Andalusian poet of the 11th century. And finally, I would say, it's not an accident that you have erotic poetry on Simchat Torah. Because the celebration of the Torah is a celebration of a marriage between Israel and the Torah, or Israel and God. So the love poetry, the poetry exists on multiple levels. On the level of the erotic and the expressive, and the nature. This last poem had to do with a shepherd, but the symbolism is always relevant to the religious life. Because you know what? Our physical beings are part of the world, right? And God created the world. So this needs to be celebrated, and I'm so grateful, I must say, for this concert. I think it's wonderful, and I want to personally thank you for the few moments that I had here, and thank you all and I think Perla may have some final words to say. Thank you.
I'm grateful to our incredible artists, my wonderful Corina and wonderful Doron. So let's give them. And I'm grateful to all of you for your support and for being here. And we have a great reception for all of you just outside. Okay? Thank you for coming.